the affinity scam, and by association, and if you get some pump and dump, which is a tried and true way to try to get money from people who lose, whether it's in a casino or somewhere else, this is kind of like that. It has this market called the NFT market, which I don't think you remember from even 2 years ago. It was a pump and dump for about 18 months. And this company called Ocean or someone else that was great to see OpenSea with a bunch of NFTs or like they've all dropped 95, 98 or 99%. So it was pretty much just a pump and dump. This is one more pump and dump. All of these other things that are against Bitcoin have now been proven to be false. So they're just trying to affiliate scam Bitcoin to make it look like there's something. The same goes for Ether. This is the newest type of a scam. Max Keiser says that over a long period of time, all assets tend to go down in value against Bitcoin. Not only does it include fiat money, but it also includes other cryptocurrencies. Max says that Bitcoin can't be stopped in his most recent statement. Max and Stacy recently talked about why Bitcoin is thought to be the best cryptocurrency. Max talked about what he thought would happen with Bitcoin in 2024 and made predictions about the market. Max also talked about his thoughts on Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies, going into more detail about the complex world of digital assets besides Bitcoin. He talked about how hard it is to deal with both bull and bear markets, stressing how important it is to be strong and sure of your beliefs even when the market is volatile. Smart people have to own up to their mistakes and try to figure out why they did what they did. How can I do better? People who aren't successful tend to act like they never made the mistake. They don't want to think about it. It's like they keep making the same mistake and expect something different to happen, right? Also, I think that this time period between 2017 and 2016 was when the ICO initial coin offering scam really took off. They had to turn down all of these deals worth millions and millions of dollars. This is when I decided, hey, we're going to go down this path of Bitcoin, only Bitcoin maximalism, and try to build a brand that is Bitcoin maximalism. This was the start of Bitcoin maximalism for me. What does that brand stand for? After that, when Michael Saylor showed up in 2020, he really became the face of Bitcoin maximalism. But I think it grew stronger. In a way, the cypherpunks were always maximalists. But then on January 20th, 2017, 2016, it seemed like we began to lean toward maximalism. Finally, I believe Michael Saylor came up with a plan for maximalism from 2020 onward. I think that's how it was written down because I know how they work. I understand how the IMF works, as we talked about. I think about it, they centralize, centralize, centralize. As a result, vulnerable. To add to Stacey's point about being a nation state, it was only natural for El Salvador to take on a maximalist stance because it fits so well with the president's ideas about economic freedom. A calculation was also done to show that Bitcoin maximalism, the benefits being 10,000 times greater than any possible incremental gain by considering any shitcoin whatsoever, cannot possibly add any. This means that ordinals are basically the same, like people who are attaching, vandalizing, graffiti attaching, or whatever to Bitcoin. And because Bitcoin is eternal and a work of art that will never end, you know, they are but the people who throw soup at the Mona Lisa do it for a reason. They say things like, we're protecting the environment, or we're protecting the right to do what activists did right. Sure, what's more, the people who work for Ordinal think they're doing something good for society. I can't remember what they're trying to do, but they say they have a philosophical message that even Aristotle could understand. There's a funny one, right? 1, 2, they act funny and they really, really believe they're funny. They even dress up as wizards and say they're funny on stage. If you choose to see them, you say, okay, it's not funny. Jimmy Song just wrote something about this, though. Yeah, and he said it was like master coin, which is just an old trick, right? To begin, let us talk about what an ordinal is. I don't believe that because it can't be explained. It's like, this is why this is just garbage. Okay, it has layers. It's not even as easy as a JPG. The thing is like a JPEG, but worse than an AI version of it in virtual reality. And very hard to understand. For one set, you pay about the same as a Bitcoin. Okay, also that's really funny, right? It's funny that there are so many people willing to do that. It looks a lot like Times Square did in the 1970s or 1980s, right? You can see some crazy things tourists do. Okay, so it looks like you're ripping off Bitcoin tourists, right? They are for sale. You're giving them one set of Bitcoin and taking 2 Bitcoin from them. And they say, that's it. But back in 2012 or 2013, we had something called Mastercoin. And they did something, or maybe it happened a little later, they raised a lot of Bitcoin and added something called Mastercoin, because that's how the incentives worked. They never really built anything. The thing about Bitcoin is that the incentive model is what keeps the whole thing going. If you gave someone money on the level of Jeff Bezos for the idea to build Amazon, would Jeff Bezos have built Amazon? Or would Elon Musk have made SpaceX, Tesla, and all that other stuff? He would have said, H him if you gave him 300 billion. As a young man, you might have said, well, I'm just going to go be a playboy around the world. Thanks a lot. I have to go to Vegas. Yes, I'm going to see Danny Gantz. Those tokens that are going through a pre-sale always end up going that way. Mastercoin became a joke because of this. They changed the name to Omni. But that was only last week. The sound is like it's being turned off. In a sense, it's over. I see it's finally turned off. Yeah, because the only thing it was still used for was a tether, which is no longer there. That's pretty much what we see with the ordinals. There's, you know, that's all it is, a second layer that they're trying to sell by acting like they're comedians. And, you know, they're kind of like a woman comedian. It's pretty much the newest scam. However, I like it's kind of like vandalism in that way. But I'm thinking about it, and this is kind of what I think of when I'm trying to think of something. But just because it's at the bottom of the cesspool doesn't mean it's worthless, stupid nonsense that will be forgotten soon and replaced by another scam. Scams keep coming. As Jimmy Song put it, they just changed the names of them. This is just mass Mastercoin with a different kind of. That being said, this is going to be this cycle because the US government and regulatory agencies are after anyone who makes one of these tokens now, right? Instead, they're launching layer 2 on Bitcoin. They're using the name Bitcoin because that's the only one that everyone knows, even Wall Street. Bitcoin is where Bitcoin is unique. In the same way that Larry Fink might not understand why Bitcoin is unique, they might not understand Wall Street. But he knows that's the person who should sell their ether because it was the coin that they used with NFTs. They were attaching the shit to because they still had lives. Still, it looks like it could be something. But now that it's falling like a rock against Bitcoin, all the con artists have switched from ETH to Bitcoin. A lot of the bigger shit coins, like this one called Us, just said they're switching to Bitcoin. For Bitcoin, that means they are layer 2. This cycle will end when Bitcoin reaches 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, 80,000, 100,000, and 125,000. More and more crazy things will be sold on their maxes yo-yos as it goes up that parabolic ladder. For example, the Dunk will probably start selling yo-yos on the blockchain, especially the Bitcoin blockchain. That's what you'll see next, you know. It will work. People will keep giving a Bitcoin for one set and not be able to figure out how much it's worth. In fact, Stacy says that the tougher it is during bull markets than during bear markets. In El Salvador, one of the things that the Bitcoin office does, and that Max and I have been doing here the whole time, is try to get the smartest people to move here and make El Salvador their headquarters, their home, their spiritual home, their real home, their physical home. And the fact that we have been around forever is good for us. We're old because we've been in Bitcoin since 2011. So we know the people who are smart enough, intelligent enough, good enough at business, and quick enough to make it through the rough bear markets. I've also lived through 4 or 5 bull markets, which are the hardest to do in Bitcoin. It's actually harder to survive those than the bear markets. You might also be tempted to be a con artist if you have a big name or are in any of those situations, like what you're given. The 2017 one was really crazy. We got 4 or 5 offers a day to work at Max's. This was before Saylor and all these big Wall Street names and other things. Bitcoin and Max were 2 of the most well-known names back then.